We are back after a long break. And welcome back to the weekly standings and predictions. This is the season 2 premiere because who cares about numbering? Who cares about how long it takes to do something like this? Is we need some stuff to get caught up on with new additions and stuff of new formats, new everything. I'm just joking. We're only changing a little bit because I am too lazy to come up with anything else, just like everyone else. We are going to start with association football. Nothing new from Major League Soccer. That's set to start later in the month. But we are going to the Premier League for the first time. I'm only going to read top three and bottom three due to the fact that we have so much ground to cover. Cur Currently number 1 is Arsenal. 16 wins, 3 draws, 2 losses. Then we got Manchester City with 15 wins, 3 draws, 4 losses. Rounding out is Manchester United with 14 wins, 4 draws, 5 losses. Currently looking at the bottom 3, we got Everton at 4 wins, 6 draws, 12 losses, which is actually the same record as Bournemouth. I think that's how you pronounce it. It but in the end, it's not gonna matter that much because there are tiebreaker methods just like everything else. And dead last is Southampton with 4 wins, 3 draws, 15 losses. Not looking so great. Hey, and in this league in particular, the bottom 2 were 3. He gets demoted to the league further down. Now let's move on to basketball with the National Basketball Association. This is a familiar face. We're going to go over the latest conference standings. In the East, we're currently looking at the Celtics, Bucks, 76ers, Cavaliers, Nets, and Heat, making their way into the postseason at this point. And however, where things can change. Nobody has clinched a spot yet. Nobody's clinched their division. And looking at who's currently set for play-ins are the Knicks, the Hawks, the Raptors, and the Wizards. Whereas with our bottom five being the Bulls, Pacers, Magic, Hornets, and Pistons. And so, looking at the Western Conference now, we have the Nuggets, the Grizzlies, the Kings, the Suns, the Mavericks, and the Clippers currently in the sixth lock. Uh, but that can still change. Currently seeking play-in round are Pelicans, Timberwolves, Warriors, and the Jazz. As this has been a tough road for the Warriors, there's given that they are on a title defense and they are struggling. And what's more, Kings are a surprise to people. Well, the Cavaliers at this point are a surprise to people. Well, some of these teams, not so much. Looking at the bottom five are the Trailblazers, which seems to be the end of an era because Damian Lillard, I'm not sure how much longer he can put up with this team for if he's even still on there. The Thunder or the Lakers are starting to realize that LeBron is aging poorly and need to actually give him some background talent that can actually take up the responsibilities. The Spurs and the Rockets. So the Western Conference is looking a lot different. And as for the Jazz, even though they're only 10th, they've consistently had at a pretty good win percentage. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Jazz actually make it in this year. Or based on that logic. Even during rebuilding years, they're usually a consistent contender. So now we get the introduction of college basketball, which for this is a bit iffy because the way this actually works is after you've played against each other in your own conference, you have to then play a tournament. Winning that tournament can also secure you to an automatic spot. So looking at the AAC, Houston is 10-1 in their conference, 22-2 overall. They're currently set to be regular season conference winners. Whereas with Tulsa being nowhere's close. The ACC, Virginia, uh, is 10-3 in the conference, 18-4 overall. They're set to be the regular season and champion team. North Carolina is struggling against their own conference this year. They're only 7-6 and 15-9 overall. But there is still time to bounce back. The season doesn't end till later, and there's also the tournament. We also have Louisville, who is 1-12 in the conference. Same with Georgia Tech. The main tiebreaker is overall wins. And oh boy, Louisville is 3-21. They are sucking. In the America East, East Vermont is 7-2 in the conference, 13-10 overall. While they're poised to be regular season winners. Whereas and then you got the University of Albany at 1-9 in the conference, 6-19 overall. They play more games than the team ahead of them, so there's that. And the ASUN Liberty is 10-2, two in the conference, 19-6 overall. However, Kennesaw State overall record wise is not far behind and could very well overthrow Liberty. And then Austin Peay is 2-10 in the conference, 8-17 overall. That conference record is tiebreaker over Central Arc. By that I mean Central Arkansas. The Atlantic 10 sees VCU at 9-3 in the conference, 18-7 overall. There's still some teams that can catch up. But right now we're looking at Loyola Chicago at 2-8 in the conference, and 14 overall, not likely to make it. Then again, the tournament is pretty much with everyone in the conference, so who knows? Big 12 is looking like like Texas for now, 8-3 in the conference, 19-5 overall. Texas Tech has only won one game in the conference, and yet they are 12-11 overall. Speaks to the difference. And Kansas is having a pretty tough title defense themselves at 7-4 in the conference, 19-5 overall. So while they are doing well overall, they're struggling in their conference a little bit. Big East has Xavier at 11-2 in the conference, putting them ahead by half a game. 19-5 overall, again still ahead by half a game. And whereas Georgetown is 1-12 in the conference, 6-18 overall. A Big Sky, Eastern Washington is undefeated in their conference. First time we've seen that appear, but they're 18-7 overall. Northern Arizona, 2-10 in the conference, 6-19 overall. You can see the big contrasts here. There also is worth knowing Duke's apparently doing pretty well under a new head coach. So that's something to take into consideration for their record earlier. In the Big South, UNC Asheville is 10-2 in the conference. 18-7 overall is your main tiebreaker between them and Radford. Whereas Presbyterian is only 1-11 in the conference, 5-20 overall. You can see differences in power gaps in some of these conferences right away. Like how in the Big Ten, Purdue is 11-2 in the conference, 22-2 overall. They are poised to be a team to beat. Minnesota, not so much. 1-11 in conference, 7-15 overall. Big West has UC Santa Barbara at 9-2 in the conference, 18-4 overall. Oh, Cal Poly, 1-11 in the conference, 7-17 overall. You can tell which ones are going to be the bigger schools in each conference. Conference USA, Florida Atlantic is 12-1 on in the conference. 22-2 overall. Again, we got some teams to beat in here. UTSA, 1-13 in the conference, 7-18 overall. On the CAA, a Hall of Charleston, 10-2 in the conference, 22-3 overall. And then we get to Monmouth, who are 3-8 in the conference, but 4-20 overall. There are only two independents in this list. Is currently leading the two independents is Chicago State at 8-18 overall. Hartford is just sitting there at 5-19. So the independents have been sucking this year. Here, the Horizon Conference sees Youngstown State at 11-3 in the conference, 19-6 overall. IUPUI at 1-13 in the conference, 4-21 overall. They are ahead to nobody, but are behind Green Bay. Got the Ivy League now. Princeton 7-2 and 16-6 overall. Columbia is their dead last. The MAAC MAC at with Ryder at 10-3 in the conference, 13-9 overall. Oh, I'm just gonna speed run through the rest of these because we're looking at some low tier stuff now. The MAC in general. Kent State is 9-2 in the conference, 19-5 overall. The MEAC saw sees UMES at 6-1 in the conference, 14-8 overall, due to playing fewer games. Mountain West sees San Diego State at 9-2 in the conference, 18-5 overall. MVC Drake is 11-4 in the conference, 20-6 overall. Not the artist Drake. This is an actual school named Drake that's been around long before him. In the NEC, Stonehill's 8-3 in the conference, 12-14 overall. Which is a little confusing because the most winningest team in this conference is the runner-up of who is 14-11. The OVC, Morehead State is 9-3 in the conference, 16-9 overall. The Pac-12 has UCLA at 10-2 in the conference, 19-4 overall. The Patriot Conference, Colgate is 11-1 in the conference, 17-8 overall. Totally different from the toothpaste. In the SEC, even in college basketball, you still see teams like Alabama dominating. 10-0, undefeated in the conference, 20-3 overall. Uh, you can tell who stands out more. SoCon, UNC Greensboro is 11-2 in the conference, 17-9 overall. Southland, Northwestern State leads at 8-3 in the conference, 16-8 overall. Summit League, Oral Roberts is undefeated in the conference and 21-4 overall. The Sun Belt, Southern Miss is 10-2 in the conference, 21-4 overall. Oh yeah, you can tell there's a lot of conferences here. App State struggling in that conference, by the way. SWAC has Alcorn leading 9-2 in the conference, 12-11 overall. Strange because there's a 15-18 right behind them. WAC, Utah Valley, 9-2 in the conference, 18-6 overall. And finally, the WCC, St. Mary's, California, I believe that is. Undefeated 10-0 in the conference, 21-4 overall. Now we move on to gridiron football. The Canadian Football League is currently in its off season. Montreal is set to be sold to somebody apparently. The last I heard. But I can tell you that even though the Chiefs won the Super Bowl for the NFL, there is still one thing we can talk about, and that is coaching changes. Carolina Panthers have officially hired Frank Reich to be their next head coach. The Broncos, were set to trade they assets as in terms of like draft capital and stuff for the rights to Sean Payton. It was just announced that the Colts are hiring Shane Steichen, and the Houston Texans hired Demeco Ryans. Cardinals are currently looking at another coordinator from the Eagles in the form of Jonathan Gannon. But then they'll have to make a decision. I'll up I'll do a separate video talking about why I think of the hires for head coach at a later date. For now, we need to move on to what I actually have next for you. The start of the XFL. Yes, they are set to kick off this weekend. And for the third attempt. So, their 8 teams are the Vegas Vipers versus Arlington Renegades to kick off this season, and followed by the Orlando Guardians versus Houston Roughnecks. Roughnecks are one of only the 3 teams to maintain their assets. The other team, the second team to maintain their assets, are the St. Louis Battlehawks. This time, the San Antonio Brahmas are going to be involved. Then it closes out with the Seattle Sea Dragons, slight rebrand for some reason, going up against the DC Defenders, the third team to maintain their assets. So, what I mean by assets, I'm talking about the full team name and where they are situated. Seattle doesn't count due to the fact that, well, they added C to the name. I'm definitely going to tune into some of these games just to see how well they go. But this is your week 1 schedule. Well, I won't be making any predictions for them. Just know that I will be reading off who wins each week, as well as unveiling the next week's schedule. Over to the world of hockey. I am going to go in league alphabetical order for the 3 leagues that we're going over. Starting with the American Hockey League. Rules of their playoffs. Everybody but 2 teams get in. And right now for the Atlantic Division. And the Providence Bruins sit on top, up at 29, 9, 7, and 2. Hershey Bears at 30, 12, 4, and 1. Followed by the Checkers, 26, 16, 2, and 2. The Phantoms, 24, 17, 3, and 2. The Springfield Thunderbirds, 24, 17, 1, and 4. And Hartford joins the top 6. The Wolfpack are sitting at 500 record. But they do have tiebreaker over the Bridgeport Islanders at this point and the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. So it's a tight competition here. In the North, for the Marlies, the Comets, the Crunch, the Rocket, and the Americans are the current 5 teams fighting for playoff spots. Uh, but they're still going to receive competition from the Monsters, and the Senators aren't that far out either. In the Central Division, the Stars, Admirals, IceHawks, Moose, and Wild are the teams with the winning records currently holding potential playoff spots. But the Griffins and Wolves, who by the way, the latter are the defending champs, can still fight to get in. And in the Pacific, we got the Wranglers are sitting on top with the expansion Coachella Valley Firebirds doing pretty well to start. They're also joined by the Canucks, Eagles, Rain, Tucson, Bakersfield, and San Jose. They current, but they can still be taken by the Silver Knights and Gold. But let's go to something less complicated in the form of the lower league ECHL. Oh, where it's only the top 4 teams in each division making it in. The Growlers are 34, 12, and 1 on sitting on top of the North, whereas I'll just start reading point values going forward. The Reading Royals have 100 have where's the point value? Well, I guess they don't have them in ECHL for some reason. Yeah, I see them. So the Growlers have 69 points, Royals at 57, the Maine Mariners at 56, and the Worcester Railers at 51 points. Closest teams to even have a shot are the Adirondack Thunder with 38 points, followed by the Trois-Rivières Lions, who are suffering through the typical sophomore slump with 36 points, and the Admirals are the worst team in the league with only 23 points. Looking in the South Division, and defending champs are still being how they are. However, this is a tight division in compared to last time. Um, the Everblades are only leading by 1 point at 61 points total, or with the Icemen at 60 points. Like, continuing the theme of tightness, the Stingrays have tiebreaker over the Greenville Rabbits, who both have 59 points. And the Gladiators are at 54 points. They can still jump back into the playoff picture. The Solar Bears are starting to jump their way in with 52 points. The only team that is not in that tight race right now are the Savannah Ghost Pirates with 37 points, suffering from typical expansion woes. So the South is still anybody's game. Aim, unlike up here in the North. Central Division, the Indy Fuel sit on top with 64 points. Cyclones are at 61. Walleye defending conference champs are at 60, so there's a little struggling going on. And the Comets ran out top four at 52. We got the Wheeling Nailers at 45 for struggling. The Kalamazoo Wings at 39 points. And the Iowa Heartlanders at 30 points. They are struggling too. And now we go to the Mountain Division. Idaho Steelheads doing pretty well. Currently set to be the best team in the league with 74 points. The only team that comes close in their division is the Wichita Thunder at 54, followed by Kansas City at 49. Don't worry, at least you got your Super Bowl again. The Island Americans were struggling with 45 points, but they got tiebreaker over the Rapid City Rush. Then there's the Grizzlies at 40 points and the Tulsa Oilers at 38. So now we go to the big man themselves. NHL, National Hockey League. Starting with the Eastern Conference, the top three in the Metropolitan are the Carolina Hurricanes with 76 points, the New Jersey Devils with 73 points, and the New York Rangers at 70 points. In the Atlantic, the Boston Bruins are currently leading in the division with 83 points. The Toronto Maple Leafs are runner-ups with 72 points, and the Tampa Bay Lightning have 70 points. He's currently holding the two card spots are the Washington Capitals with 62 points. Pittsburgh Penguins with 61 points. So there's a little difference here, but it's still anyone's race in the East for those wild card spots. Unless, of course, you are a struggling team at this point of the season. In the Western Conference, top three teams in the Central Division are the Dallas Stars with 70 points, the Winnipeg Jets with 67 points, and the Minnesota Wild with 61 points. Top three in the Pacific are the Vegas Golden Knights with 68 points, the Los Angeles Kings with 67 points, and the Seattle Kraken with 65 points. Currently holding two wildcard spots are the Edmonton Oilers at 65 points and the Calgary Flames at 61 points. Means Battle of Alberta continues. But there are still teams in here with a shot. And now we move on to our last sport for rugby football. Well, the Major League Rugby will be entering a new season with fewer teams, well, one less team. I mean, they lost two due to to having to disqualify teams and expelling them apparently, and added an expansion team. So they only lost one, but at the same time, still felt like addition from subtraction. We are going to start with the matchup set to go on this upcoming weekend. Kicking off first set of rounds are the following. February 17th at 7 o'clock. uh, February 17th, Rugby Atlanta plays against the Toronto Arrows. They reverse how they handle things, by the way. Also on February 17th, NOLA Gold, New Orleans, Louisiana, versus New England Free Jackets. February 18th game, Old Glory DC versus Chicago Hounds. San Diego Legion versus Utah Warriors. Seattle Seawolves versus New York Ironworkers. Rounding things out on February 19th, the Dallas Jackals versus the Houston Sabercats. I'm definitely going to be checking a game or two out throughout the season, see how it's been adapted to America. And that is going to wrap up these standings and predictions. Is I think that in terms of certain leagues, I think that in the ECHL, the Eastern Conference will once again be represented by either the Florida Everblades or South Carolina Stingrays. In the XFL, it's hard to predict. In college, I think there's going to be a few Carolina teams again. In the NBA, hey, I think that the Celtics are finally going to win an NBA championship again. In the NHL, well, I think that somebody from the Eastern Conference is going to win it this year. Those are what predictions I'm going to give at this point. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And if you would like to tune into the previous season, there will be a playlist made later down the line. I want to have enough videos out, and at least I can come back from break and still continue to do what I do best, as unlike by Congress as of late. Hey, thank you all so much for tuning in. And as always, I'll see you all next time.